Today we're doing the review for issue number 5 of Poison Ivy. And I'm just telling you, G. Willow Wilson is on a roll right now. All right, this was probably like the best issue so far. So let's go ahead and get into the review real quick. All
right, guys. So before we get into the story, I'm going to be showing you guys some of the covers here. This is the A cover by Jessica Fong. Obviously, Jessica Fong is like she's starting to do some variants, which I'm pretty excited to see what her variants are gonna be looking like. I know she's not gonna be doing it for Poison Ivy, at least not yet. I think it's for another series. I think Catwoman or Harley Quinn or something. But I did see a preview for one of Fong variant in the future, so we'll be getting to see her, because the artists, when they take on a variant, they're pretty much putting the best of the best, where A covers are usually more like action and story oriented. So we'll get into this. First things first, we got the Sozomaika from last month that we didn't get this time. And wow, look at this, man. This is amazing by Sozomaika. I think she is one of the best rising artists. She might be one of the artists of the year. She's already got a couple hits under her belt, and this one's amazing. I think if this would have came out last month, instead of getting the Error variant, I think this would have been the cover of the month. But yo, check this out. This really captures who Poison Ivy is. As a dangerous woman, right? You have the thorns, you have like the crown of the thorns with those leaves that are kind of like they cut you, right? I remember when I was a kid, we used to kick the soccer ball into those bushes at the apartments that had those pointy things. Man, I used to hate that. These things suck. Anyways, if you're not following Sozomaika on Instagram, man, you're kind of missing out, because she is awesome. I think one of the things she specializes in is actually like femme fatale art. So yeah, this is actually amazing. Next, this is the David Talaski cover, and this is amazing cover, man. This is just straight up 1960s pinups. This is kind of like what I imagine Poison Ivy art to look like. This is very reminiscent of Batman 181, which is her first appearance. Same gate up. I love the Venus flytraps. I love the softness. It looks just like this is like a calendar from like World War II or something. It looks amazing. And then we have the Stefan Sejic, which is the B cover. And this one actually looks way better in real life than it does in the preview section that I was. Like I said, her suit looks like it's like made out of lettuce and stuff. So love the facial expressions. I think she looks great. I love like what is it, like a zucchini slice or something that she's wearing for a hat. Very awesome. Very, very, very crazy pinup style art. So love this one. I love both of these very much, but I think if I was to choose, I think I'm going to be leaning towards the Talaski, because this is, I believe, a little bit more traditional medium, if I'm not mistaken. While I know that Sejic does a lot more of the digital medium stuff, but don't get me wrong, that stuff's amazing too. So anyways, let's get to the story. All right, guys, so I'm just gonna straight up say it. This was one of my favorite issues so far. I think this is the strongest issue so far as action oriented, exposition, building upon past issues. This is just amazing, and there's a lot in here to unpack, so I'm sorry if this sounds a little bit long-winded, but I feel like there's some important things that we should probably cover before we get in. The first thing we do is that, remember last month we were talking about like if we weren't sure if this guy is a new villain or if this was going to be an old familiar foe. I suspected that this was going to be Jason Woodrow, aka the Floronic Man, aka the Plant Master, and once we open up to the first page, we see the doctor here. His name right there is Woodrow, so we see it on his name tag. So instantly I kind of figured, yep, that's Jason Woodrow. All right, Jason Woodrow is not a new villain. He actually appeared way back in the Silver Age in Atom #1. He was actually first known as the Plant Master. It wasn't until he appeared in the Swamp Thing by Alan Moore where he became the Floronic Man. And we've always seen him when it comes to anything with like plants, and we saw him in the Ram V story. We saw him in the Harley Quinn and Poison Ivy mini series as well. So he's a recurring character as well. I think he's also one of the creepiest. I think when it comes to Swamp Thing villains, he's also like probably the second biggest villain right after Anton Arcane. Basically, he's like some kind of evil scientist guy, right? Except he's a botanist. He knows everything about plants. He's always experimenting with plants, and he kind of does it under this ruse that he's like some kind of environmentalist or whatever. So also, we are starting off with a flashback, right? This is not only a flashback, but it's a hallucination as well. And I just want to also, another thing that I feel like we should be familiar with before we keep getting into the story is the origin of poison ivy. So the origin of poison ivy, there's two of them. There's the pre-crisis and then there's the post-crisis. They're very similar, but the one that we are referring here to is the post-crisis one, which was in Secret Origins number 36, and this was by Neil Gaiman, one of the most respected art writers of that era. So in this one, she's kind of just going through flashbacks as she's being interviewed while she's at Arkham Asylum by some dude. I think the dude's like recruiting people for like the Suicide Squad or something. Anyways, her story is that she was going to college in Seattle. Dr. Jason Woodrow was her professor, and she was kind of like, taken by him. She was like, she wanted to change the world. She was into plants. She had an infatuation for plants, and that's why she was willing to let Dr. Woodrow experiment with her body, because she thought she was going for a good cause. She was young and she was naive, and she was betrayed, right, by Jason Woodrow. He injected her with some kind of formula that made her become poison ivy, and in return she became close to the green, which is, I feel like, another thing that I should probably explain is, those of you unfamiliar with the green is pretty much like a realm of consciousness. Like all of the plants in the universe, not just the world, they collectively have a consciousness, and there are certain beings like the Swamp Thing, Jason Woodrow, and Poison Ivy who can tap into that. Some of them can tap into it better than others, and like Swamp Thing can do it a lot better than Poison Ivy, but it gives them the plant powers, right? It gives them the power to do different things. So for example, Poison Ivy can manipulate plants. She can create, she can create plants. She can control vines and stuff like that. Then when you have somebody else like Swamp Thing, who's on the next level, he can actually transport his consciousness from one side of the world to another through plants, right? He can reconstruct himself in any other kind of form. He can rebuild himself. He can regenerate. He's pretty much a plant god. And that's kind of important because there's going to be a section in here where Jason Woodrow brings up like the concept of the green, right? So anyways, I think that's all of it. So yeah, like I said, if you're a Poison Ivy fan, check out this Green Lantern. Check out this Secret Origins number 36. Very short read, but it's very great, by Neil Gaiman. Also, if you're interested, the first appearance of Jason Woodrow is the Atom #1 Silver Age. So it's not as interesting, I think. Silver Age reading is kind of, I don't know, it's not my cup of tea. But if you're interested, there is that. So now that we got all that out of the way, let's get this going. All right. So last we know, Poison Ivy was heading west, because she's got this fungus, and she's trying to release the fungus to cause world destruction, right? But then we know that she's got one more little thing that she needs to take care of in Seattle. And we know that Seattle is the place where she grew up, and it's also her place of origin. And here we see Dr. Woodrow towering over her. We kind of see this flashback, and shout out, and then we see kind of Jason Woodrow with this intense look on his face, and they see like pierces her, and this is what we're seeing here is the creation of Poison Ivy. Now check out this freaking splash page here. Amazing freaking art. Shout out to Marcio Takada, man, because he really is showing his versatility here, because he is changing the art to kind of fit what we're being displayed, right? Not just what he was doing in the real world, but here the art's a lot more intense. It's more scary. The colors are bolder. The lines are more chaotic, and this is very important because he wants us to feel that intensity that Poison Ivy is feeling through this flashback of her origins, because we are reliving one of the most traumatic points of Poison Ivy's life here. So this is pretty awesome. Right here, they kind of do it to kind of re-explain her origins, like really quick, right? And then we see the appearance of Batman within her hallucination, right? So I think this is going to be an interesting part where Batman shows up, right? Because in her origins, she does say that she became a villain because she became infatuated with Batman. So that's going to be something that we are going to be exploring. Then we snap back to reality, right? And she's driving the little unicorn van and stuff, which I freaking love. And we find out that she's hallucinating. Here she starts explaining that hallucinations are getting worse. She says this is the first time that she's actually gone into a hallucination while she's driving. So we can kind of tell that things are getting worse. She starts describing that the fungus or the lamia, it's getting really bad, and she can actually feel the infection inside of her brain. So things are getting pretty intense here, and pretty dire for Poison Ivy. So she needs to take care of this last thing that she's doing here. Now we have Batman in the seat, in the car seat, right? This is a hallucination of Batman. So it's not typical Batman, right? It's not the brooding, super stoic, quiet, detective, reasonable guy. This guy's a little bit like, hey, I'm just a hallucination. I don't have all the answers. I'm only have the answers that you have. So I think that's kind of funny. I kind of love this, that G. Willow Wilson really put this in there to kind of like add another dynamic to the story. So we know that Poison Ivy is not really alone within her own hallucinations, within her own, trauma. So that's kind of funny, right? I kind of like it. And then we find out that she's going over to this warehouse where it happened, right? Where she became Poison Ivy. And she walks in and she's like, everything was just the way it was before. So she's getting flashback, and this is where he reveals himself, the Green Man. So again, guys, originally he was a plant master, became the Floronic Man, and I think he was something else, and now he's the Green Man. So this was kind of like a little juke by G. Willow Wilson on who the villain was going to be. That's why there was a little bit of speculation whether this guy was going to be like a noob guy, but now we know that it's good old Jason Woodrow. And he looks absolutely evil. He looks awesome. He looks great. I love this art. And we see them, they kind of go right after each other, right? Start choking her and they start stabbing her. And this is very awesome. So she's kind of writing the thing here, and right here it says he tries to go on this kind of a speech, the good old villain speech, and then she's like, that's the right moment to strike, right? I kind of like this passage right here. It says, when you strike at a king, you must kill him. It's Emerson, but he's got an idea from Machiavelli. So I think Emerson was like some kind of philosopher, but Machiavelli, he wrote The Prince. In real life, he's like a literature, and he pretty much wrote like a handbook for tyrants. I don't know. I think that's a nice little shout out from her. And here we have an interesting, right, during this fight, we have this hallucination, right, because she's kind of hallucinating during the fight as well. And not only are they having a physical fight, but they're also having like a fight of like philosophies, or of what they believe in and stuff. And Pamela accuses him, saying, hey, you don't really believe in the green, right? You hide behind this environmentalist person or whatever, but you really don't care about the green, and you only care about the green in your wallet, right? But not necessarily the green of plant life. And then Jason Woodrow says that, he tries to say, you romanticize the green, and the green is actually like a very violent thing that happens. And this is where I really appreciate G. Willow Wilson, because that is actually a callback to Alan Moore's Swamp Thing, right? When he starts to describe, it's in the first volume, where he describes plant life, how we see it so quietly. Like, you walk through the forest and it just seems like peaceful. But then he's like, if only you could hear the screams of the plants, because they're actually competing. They're competing against each other. You'll see like some plants wrap around other plants, suffocate them. You'll see the roots underneath are competing against each other. And you'll see that the bigger plants will actually tower over the smaller plants, and literally killing the smaller plants because they're taking away their sun. kind of like an example where you see like a big tree with lots of leaves, and then you kind of see nothing but like dirt around it, like near its trunk, just because it's sucking up everything. So that's kind of like what Alan Moore described, like plant violence, that the world of plants is a very violent place. It just happens very slowly. So that's where Jason Woodrowes kind of says, well, you want to save the green, but the green is actually very violent. And that's why I kind of I thought that was cool. I love it when authors do their homework, man, because because readers will know. So we kind of get some of that back and forth, and then she's got one more thing up her sleeve, right? It looks kind of dire. What she tries to do is she tries to infect him, right, with the what's called the lamia, the fungus, right? And it kind of like explodes him. It spreads like exponentially on him. And the reason we're getting here is because both of them have like similar DNA, because they were created similarly. And the fungi has been adapting and mutating and adapting to Pamela's DNA. So when she infected Jason, it was ready to go. It was primed to spread. It didn't have to go through that adaptation process that it's been going with Pamela. It just took off. And so yeah, it definitely exploded. So this is where I was like, oh man, is that going to be it for Jason Woodrowes? That was like such a lame fight, man. Like, you would expect a lot more from their villains. You want the villains to be a lot more competent, and you want them to kind of tower over the hero a little bit. So that would have been lame if it was it, but it's not, man. Jason Woodrowes comes back because he has superior healing abilities from Poison Ivy. Because remember, Poison Ivy, she's barely even in the green, right? But Jason Woodrowes is fully in the green, like he's tapped in. So we did see him have like regeneration process, and then we get the explanation from Jason Woodrowes. He's like, I created the lamia. Like, basically he's taking credit for the lamia. So he's like, the whole thing that you've been doing about trying to spread this stuff across the world, it's not working. He's like, they're all isolated incidents. He's like, because the lamia was never intended to be a something that was a weapon of mass destruction, right? It was never intended to be a plague. He says the reason he created the lamia was because it was meant to be a mind control thing, right? It was biosurveillance and mind control. All right, so this is really awesome. This is where I also really appreciate G. Willow Wilson, because I really appreciate when writers take some of that science stuff and like real life science and then apply it to the comic books. Alan Moore did it. I know Tom King and Scott Snyder have done some of it before, and it's always really enjoyable for me. Because if you guys can look it up on YouTube, there's actually like a fungus out there that takes over ants. Like it attaches itself to the brain or the stem of the ant, or the brain of the ants, and then kills them, but they're still moving, like it's mind control. So then it goes back to the colony, and it infects all the other ants, and then they all become like zombie ants. Very interesting stuff. Okay, very interesting stuff. I think it's a real thing too. It's like down in the Amazon, and this is what I really appreciate. My only thing is, you would think that Pamela Isley, being a brilliant botanist, would have kind of caught on to that. I'm surprised that we haven't seen a little bit more of Pamela Isley's, because she is a scientist, she's a doctor, and I'm just kind of a little bit more. I guess she's going through a lot of stuff with Harley and a lot of emotional stuff going on, but I'm surprised we didn't see a lot more of the investigative scientist side of Pamela Isley. Maybe we'll get to see that in the next arc. But as we see, she is not in a good position, and Jason Woodrowes looks freaking crazy, dude. Crazy. So that's it, man. I'm looking forward to the 6th issue, man. The 6th issue is going to be so dope, and that's going to conclude the first arc. Now, I'm not sure if they changed a little bit of things. I'm not sure if they changed the story a little bit, because now it's going to be a continuous story. And usually with 6-issue minis, they kind of try to wrap it up nice and neat into a one little story. But now that it's going to be extended, I wonder if they're going to leave some doors open to see what we're going to be doing in the next issues. Also, if you guys have made it this far, I want to show you guys something, man. Check this out. So this is issue number 2, all right, and this was signed for me by Jenny Frison at C2E2. So she signed it right there, man. That is amazing. Back from CGC, super fast, right? But check this out, guys. I got one that's raw, and I'm gonna be giving this one away to one of you guys that have been watching these Poison Ivy videos and commenting and stuff. I'm gonna be giving this out on when I do the review for issue number 6, just to say thank you, because it's really awesome that people, you know, are interested in what I have to say about Poison Ivy, and yeah, man, I'm really having lots of fun with this. So yeah, thank you guys. Again, I'll see you guys for the previews, and you guys take care. All right, peace, stay cool.